Okay, everybody, let's jump into it. If others are going to join us, they can roll in at any time whilst we're discussing, and we can cover anything missed in our question period. I want to thank you both for joining us today. We are very happy to have you here, and I'm excited to share some information for our upcoming elections. So let's jump into it. Many of you may be aware of this, but the Centennial College Student Association, otherwise known as the CCSAI, is a not-for-profit organization, and we represent the students at Centennial College. I'm just going to give a little bit of an overview of our structure just so you can kind of understand what the role of a board of director is. As you can see here, we have a tiering. At the top, you'll see students, which are you both, board of directors, and then full-time staff and part-time staff like myself. We put students at the top of this tiering because students drive our organizations. The reason that our organization exists is because of all of you and our fantastic students. All of our decisions are based on the well-being and enriching the educational journey of our students. And to do so, we have representatives such as student board of directors. As a board member, you are responsible for representing each student body at your specific campus, and for president, representing all students at every single campus. And then that is supported by staff like myself, rather full-time or part-time. And we have over 100 staff members currently that we employ to help support our board of directors, and most importantly, to help enrich the educational journey of our students. Where you can find us, this is just some general information, and you may be very aware of this, but we are located at the Student Center at Progress. We also have a lounge located in A106 at the Ashton B campus. We have the Morningside Lounge, room 113, Story Arts Lounge, also room 113, and then Downsview Campus, room 104. If you weren't familiar with where you could find us before, please keep this for your records, and we would love to see you at our offices if you ever need any support, have any questions, or anything like that. What are the CCSAI elections for? First and foremost, as I mentioned before, the CCSAI is a student-led organization that functions to serve and improve the educational experience of our students. We hold these annual elections to nominate new board of directors, to collaborate in our organizational processes, and as I mentioned before, to ensure all of our decision-making is student-based and student-focused. Moreover, our premise as CCSAI, or as a student association, or otherwise known as a student union, is to ensure that all of our services, events, and resources are in place to enrich the lives and experiences. This is to align with the dynamic nature of student needs. As you all know, no experience is the same when you're going down your educational journey. And that goes for semester to semester, even year to year. You may have one year where you think you got a hang on everything and understand how your journey is going to go. And then the next year, it's completely different. So we seek to be dynamic with the nature of education as well, so that we are properly representing and changing to best reflect our students. Our elections process begin today with this information session and run until April. Officially, it will start in late January, but I like to consider now the beginning of our elections process, as this going forward, we will start to try to get some of you amazing students interested and to hopefully join us in the future. As I mentioned, we are governed by a student board of directors, which have a representative for each of our campuses. We have a representative for Downsview, Ashton B, Morningside, Story Arts, and our president. And more recently, we've introduced Performing Arts Center representative as well as an Indigenous student representative. These were introduced in an effort to, as I keep saying, ensure that we are reflective and representative of all of our students. We determine that sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to properly reflect the experience of everyone with just a representative for each campus. So slowly and surely, we are trying to expand that so that everybody is considered and everybody is represented. Each board member will at least serve 1 year. They will be elected and serve from May 1st until April 30th of the following year. But last year, we introduced a 2-year term for board members. I'll go into that next. Yearly elections are held for these positions. As I mentioned, president represents all of our campuses, vice president, progress, and so forth. For all of our campuses, we have a representative. Board members now have an option for a 2-year term. On September 26th of last year, the student membership approved a 2-year term for all of our board members, which means after you serve your first term, you have the option to stay with us for another year and extend that term, which is not only a great opportunity for us to have very skilled students, but also for you to gain crucial professional development opportunities and education throughout your term. So this means after their initial term, they can take that second term and we go from there.
Jessica, I think Jay has a question about the president. Sorry to cut you off, but
No,
I
okay.
think you were about to talk about the president role in the previous slide.
Yes, sorry about that. So what I was going to say about the
Mhm.
president is that for the president role, that isn't up for application to the general student membership, as the president is picked from our current board of directors, so our current vice presidents. So all of our current vice presidents that you will see throughout the year and maybe even next year have the option this January to submit an application for president as well, and they will then become the representative for all of our campuses. I hope that answers your question, Jay.
Sorry. So the current vice president right now compete the president for next year?
Yes, there's a little competition when it comes to president. Great question. But we had our president for 2 years. Our current president, AJ, had taken his 2 year term. So he's been with us for 2 years. His term is going to be up in April. So the position of president will now be open to all of our vice presidents that are, you can see on our screen here. And if there's numerous applicants, then that means that effectively our vice presidents will be competing against each other for the position of president. That means if you join us for a term starting in April after this elections process and you are nominated, elected, and so forth, the following year you will also have that opportunity to run for president, which is a full-time salary paid position. And you can stay with us for 2 years in that position as well, just like a vice president. So you can see on the screen here, these are all of our vice presidents. We have currently, as you can see here, Kushbir with us. He will be available to answer some of your questions after, but he is our vice president for Downsview. When we get to our question period, if you have role-specific questions, we are going to be open for that, and he will be able to answer based on his experience being with us for nearly 7-8 months now. All right, going forward. There are our board of directors are our student leaders. They're the representatives and they advocate on your behalf and help lead the decision-making processes. And they do this in a multitude of ways. Not only are they on the ground collaborating with students on campus whilst they're there, but they're also in the background doing procedural and policy work as well, collaborating on bylaws, events, initiatives, advocacy, rather that's internally within our institution, externally in other institutions, or even lobbying municipal, provincial, and federal governments. Right now, part of our board of directors have been at Ontario Student Voices, which is a provincial representative for student union. And then they will also be at CASA, which is the Canadian Association of Students. I'm saying that wrong, but is the federal representative of student unions and education. Go ahead, Kushbir.
So it's Canadian Alliance of Student Association, which is our federal advocacy union, and currently four of our board members. So our president, our vice president from Morningside, and two representatives are currently in Ottawa Parliament Hill advocating for our students.
Thank you so much. All right, now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, which is the eligibility. This is our broad eligibility. So this is the baseline of what you need to submit an application for vice president. First and foremost, you need to be a full-time student registered at Centennial College in an approved minimum number of courses related to full-time status during the day. Rather, that's a diploma, certificate, or a degree. An emphasis I want to make on this is that we do make accommodations for those students that are registered with the CALC, Center for Accessible Learning and Counseling Services. If you have some accommodations where you are still considered a full-time student, but your course load is reduced, you are also eligible to apply for an application. And if you are ever curious about your eligibility in that realm, we are always available to answer. Next is be bondable. This is going to be a foreign concept because it's a legality. It's not really going to affect all of you because you are all pretty much bondable if you are enrolled within the institution. Next, you can't be enrolled in a cooperative education placement or internship program for more than 3 or more days in a week. That would interfere with the board members' ability to perform their duties. This inclusion is just because the role of vice president is quite hefty. It does take a lot of your time commitments, and we always want to make sure that students have the ability to properly weigh their education as well as their role within the association, because at the end of the day, your main priority and our main priority is to see you all succeed in your education, and we don't want to be taking away from your journey and attaining your career once you leave our institution. So that's why that is included. Next, you need to be 18 years of age at the time of taking office. This one is also not usually a concern because generally when you are in college, you are already 18 years of age, but just to be safe, we include that in. Next, you must have attained a GPA of 3.0 in your most recently completed academic semester. If elections start next semester in January officially, we would be looking at your GPA from end of this semester, so December. Whatever your GPA is there, that's what we would be looking at for your eligibility in terms of that. Next, you need to meet all the criteria outlined in our general elections appointed position application. Basically, everything you see here is what the application requires of you plus nomination signatures. I'll get into that a little bit later of what the requirement is for nomination signatures. Next, you must be in good standing with the college. So that just means that you are not on probation, you have no disciplinary concerns, and basically you don't have a repertoire of disciplinary actions is what that means. Next, you must be available to attend all 4 board meetings and other meetings as scheduled. That is a part of your hourly requirement as a vice president. So this will be included within your agreement in the vice president position to work your hours, which includes attending our board meetings. Next, you can't be in violation of our bylaws for at least 365 days out of the calendar. Most of you won't be in violation of our bylaws, but just in case you might be, that is a requirement. For vice presidents, if you are enrolled at Downsview, you can apply for the Downsview vice president. If you're enrolled at Progress, you apply for Progress vice president, and so forth. If you're enrolled at Downsview, you can't go apply for Progress, and that applies to all campuses. Simply, wherever you're enrolled is what you would apply for in a vice president position. And if a first semester student, this is a new inclusion from last year. Previously, first semester students could not submit an application for vice president, but we amended this to make it a little bit more accessible to our students and accommodate more of our students to be able to work with us. So if a first semester student applies for this position, they are required to still attain a 3.0 GPA in the semester in which they start their term, or as soon as their grades are released by the college at the end of their first semester. For example, if you start school in January and you want to apply, we would wait for your grades to come out at the end of April, and we would see what your GPA is from there. Okay, so now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. We're going to get into what you would be responsible for as a board member. First and foremost, you will be meeting with our college executives to represent the student voice at Centennial. So what this means is you would be meeting with our executive, the college's board of directors, college council, and a variety of executives within the college to be a voice for our students, a voice for your constituents, so students that you are representing, and you would bring issues to them that you have experienced as a student yourself, or students have brought to you to share with the college. You need to engage a student to understand their needs. As I said, to be an effective representative of your students, you need to engage with them. You need to be on the ground. You need to talk to those students. You need to be available to chat with them and see what their experience is and how you can incorporate that into our work at our decision-making tables to bring the best experience to our students. You also will be representing student interests on committees such as College Council, which is one of the biggest committees within the college, which they debate a slew of concerns, and our board members have been quite active at the College Council, and our voice is quite effective there. They do value our voice as a student board because they're so high up in the college, they need that on-the-ground voice to see what's going on, how our students experience, what are the problems, and how can we best improve those. So next, you'll work with your fellow board of directors and team members to best support students. And you'll also advocate and work on issues that most greatly impact students and collaborate with municipal, provincial, and federal advocacy groups and government officials. As a vice president, you need to conduct all of your actions with the CCSAI students and the public in accordance with our standards and our code of conduct. You'll be familiar with these once you have joined the board, as that is part of your training to go over code of conduct and all of our policies and bylaws and procedures and such. The rest of this act in accordance with our bylaws, corporation acts, human rights, and so forth. Just legalities that basically say that you are going to adhere to policies as well as law and, of course, not infringe on any of that. Next, your commitment is 15 hours a week within normally scheduled operating hours. This can fluctuate. It can be less, it can be more, depending on the time of year or what kind of initiatives we are undertaking, but 15 hours is our baseline. Next, hold mandatory weekly office hours. So this is when you're going to be available for students on the office. They're going to be able to come and drop in and talk to you, set up meetings for you, whatever it may be. You'll be within your 15 hours, be included with some office hours as well. Next, attend board meetings and committee meetings. So that will be delegated once you joined our board to say, are you sitting on any committees and what they are? And then, of course, our internal board meetings, which we hold twice a month, a governance meeting and a full board meeting, which is where we have our approval processes. We make changes to any of our policies, or there's some work or there's some initiatives we'd like to undertake. It is all discussed within those 2 monthly meetings. Next, you may occasionally work evenings and weekends, and then when necessary, traveling to attend conferences and trainings. So as Kushbir mentioned, some of our board members are currently away traveling for OSV and CASA, so that as a board member, you may be also traveling, rather that is for those 2 other committees, other conferences to represent our students. Next, you need to ensure that once your term is done, that you you are also helping orient your new vice president that is elected into the position. So what that means is to just pass the torch, pass on your wisdom, help them get oriented to what they can expect, what they're going to be undertaking within this role, and kind of just help them get ready for the position that they're undertaking. Next, participate in training and development sessions offered, which is just some basic training. And we do travel sometimes for the training for our board members, and we do hold, like over the summer, some other training sessions. So it's just a requirement that you're available to attend those so that you can fully understand your position. Now we're going to be getting into the role of governance. First and foremost, you will engage and oversee strategic planning and implementation to support mission-focused culture that is in line with our mission, values, and our pillars. Currently, we're in the process of developing official strategic plan that we hope to implement in early 2025. That will be great, especially for our new board of directors, because that'll give you all great direction. Previous boards haven't had a strategic plan like this clearly laid out for them that outlines what is our mission, what is our values, and what are our pillars. And this will help you be very oriented to say what are our goals as a board of directors throughout our term. Rather it's a 1 year, 2 year, this strategic plan will help you be focused and have the whole board under the same direction. Next, develop and improve bylaws, which cover topics such as committee structure, meetings, voting procedures, and standards of conduct. The bylaws are basically our governing policy. So this tells us everything from membership, eligibility, voting procedures, sanctioning procedures. Basically everything you can think of that is relating to our association is found within our bylaws. And as a vice president, you will be responsible for helping us make amendments. So you'll take a look at those, say, I don't like this, let's improve this, whatever it is. As a vice president, you do have that ability to make material changes to how we function as an organization to best suit the current climate of our students. Next, you must maintain a clear separation between the governance role and the operational responsibilities of the executive director and staff. So what that means is that as a board member, you will be more on the governance side. So you'll be more on the policy, on the student engagement, procedures, strategic planning, all of that is governance. Whereas operations is more so like hiring, implementing different types of events, different types of resources. Even though you are going to be collaborating on all of that, it's just a responsibility of a vice president to understand, okay, this is a governance role, this is operations, and how do we best approach both of those. So next, since we are a student union or a student association, all the vice presidents or the board of directors in general, they evaluate our executive director and CEO. When you first hear that, you might say like, oh, wow, that's a really big thing, but that's how we keep ourselves accountable. Our executive director effectively gets evaluated by each of our board members every year to basically say, have we done our job effectively? And if not, where can we improve or what we did great? It's all an accountability and transparency structure. Next, conduct assessments and evaluations of the board. This is how we like to keep our board members accountable within themselves. So who better to help you stay accountable to your role than somebody else that is also in the role? So board members will also be evaluating not only their fellow board members, but also our committees, advisory committees, and monitor things such as effectiveness, efficiency, and membership satisfaction. Basically, what that means is, what is our board doing, and is it affecting our students positively? And if so, great. If not, how can we improve? Next, monitoring our annual performance objectives. This means, what do we want to accomplish within our year term? How can we best do it? And what kind of actions do we need to take to attain those goals? And next, we monitor the progress of our activities and our services on an ongoing basis. We have a slew of resources, events, and activities that are available to our students on an ongoing basis constantly, but we like to take a step back and review if these are best serving our students, if these are actually helping them, or what they need, where's the gap that we can fill. So that will also be part of your assessment as a board director. So this is the fun part. Advocacy. As an advocate, you are going to be, this is kind of the funnest and the most important role as being a board member, is that, as I keep saying, you're the representative. We have so many students, and you are going to be effectively that leader that says, my students at my campus need this, and we're going to achieve this way. And not only advocating within the college, but also, as I mentioned, outside. So for example, changes made to things such as the IRCC or our student visa immigration policies. We advocate for those things. We say, okay, we're going to have quite a detrimental impact to our students here. What can we do to mitigate that impact for them? That's advocating, which leads into representing the interest of our students and advocating when necessary on their behalfs that are related to our CCSAI services, rather their academic or non-academic issues. Meeting regularly with colleges, senior staff, and representing our views of our students. This will occur at college council, but also there's various times where you will meet with college executives directly to share issues, concerns, or just gaps that you see within the student experience that you think the college should be responding to. Next, you're going to engage in effective dialogue with the college on behalf of us. These seem repetitive, but they're all slightly different. So there's always an ongoing basis. It's not always the executives, but also faculty members. Our board members often are found advocating for students, rather there's concern between a professor and a student to a student, or issues that are also outside, such as living circumstances, food security, and all of that stuff. We do communicate that to our college and various departments and faculty members that are relevant to the issue that we are currently advocating for. Furthermore, advocacy also steps into our policies again, rather that's bylaws or our slew of our other policies. Part of advocacy is putting that into policy. So putting that into our governing documents that say that we can't just, scrap certain things when it doesn't suit us anymore, but there's certain things that we put in place that we would like to continue forward. That's also part of advocating, so that we have an official protection for whatever it may be. We put that into our policies. Next, you have to be well versed and exert an influence regarding political developments, municipal, provincial, and federal. If there are concerns outside, you communicate with the staff, you communicate with your fellow board members, and we develop a plan on how we can best respond to these issues going forward. Student engagement. So this one's also fun. So basically what this means is you're going to be attending events, getting to know all of these people, and effectively trying to build that relationship with all the students that you are representing so that they feel comfortable confiding in you when they're experiencing hardship, or when they're happy as well, to confide in you, to say that, I really appreciate this service or that service, whatever it may be. That's student engagement. As a board member, you'll collaborate with staff, you'll develop communication strategies that are aimed at connecting with students. So that means, how can we best connect with our students and explain to them what we got going on? A lot of the times, students won't have a good insight into all the resources that are available to them. Our engagement plan is to ensure that our students are made aware of all the resources they have and all the ways that we attempt to help them along their journey. And part of this is being consistently interacting with students, rather this is class visits, town halls, social media, videos, and a bunch of other mediums. We try to connect. We're on TikTok, we are on Instagram, we're on social media. We're trying to connect with our students in the best way that they relate to. And next, encourage students to be actively involved in the association. At least for me, when I was in school, I did not have any idea of resources that were available to me as a student. I would kind of just suffer in silence, and I didn't know who to ask for help. We want to rectify that. We don't want our students to be experiencing that. We want to ensure that they are participating in our events. They're using our legal aid. They're using our food bank. They're using our facilities. They're coming to, do their work at our facilities, use our arcade, the AWC, the gym. That's being involved. We want to encourage students to be aware, be involved, and connect with us. Next, leadership. As a student leader, of course, a big part of your role is to be a leader. Rather, that's participating in regular meetings with the president to ensure an understanding of our initiatives and student concerns. As a vice president, you'll collaborate with the president to have that transparent communication so that all of our board members are very aware of the issues that are going on at each campus, and then we compile that together to see how we can lead to a solution. Next, as a vice president, you'll prepare monthly reports to the board. At our monthly meetings that I mentioned before, vice presidents will compile a report to present, which basically covers a multitude of things: what events they've attended, what initiatives they've executed, and whatever else it may be. This is just to help drive us into student-based decision making. Next, you have to be well informed of our major events and our activities, not just the CCSAI activities, but also the colleges, because as a leader, you need to be present. Nobody wants to be completely unaware of who their quote-unquote leader is. So that's why we like our vice presidents to be available, to be accessible, and to give off confidence and have the students be confident in them that they are going to effectively represent their interests and that they are available to hear your interests as well and put them into action to rectify them. Next. This is just a video of our previous president. This is going to kind of give you an example of campaigning. So when we get into the campaigning procedures, you're going to have to, it's kind of a fun, it depends how you look at it, but it's a fun process, I would say. But but you kind of create these videos to further connect. If you apply for an application to participate in our elections, part of that is going to be getting the voice out and getting students to know your face and know your goals. This is kind of an example of it. Please let me know if you can all hear the audio. So let's see.
Hi, I'm Tima. I am off model route, so between semester 5 and 6 in the Human Resources program, and I am running for president on the CCSAI Board of Directors. I'm running for president because at CCSAI we're great at advocating at the college level, but there's so much more we can do, and I want to find that potential.
Very short, very sweet, very to the point. The goal of that campaigning is basically to get your word out, get students to get involved in the elections, get excited, and understand what your goals are as a board of director. As a board member, you think of like federal elections, like when you're electing the prime minister. Although, of course, it's not that grand of a scale, but I like to refer it to that. Like if you're on YouTube and you get those, I know I've been getting them recently, those like campaigning videos now about my name is so-and-so and this is what I'm going to do. Same idea. It's just so that students say, oh, okay, I've seen that person. I like what they're going for. Rather, that is to promote more food security, expand or whatever your goals are as a student, which is generally based in your experiences as a student. You do that and you market yourself based on that. Now we're going into the nomination process. So the nomination process begins in January. Basically, after you've attended these information sessions and you've decided, you know, this is a good fit for me, I am excited to be involved in the CCSAI, you submit an application for nomination. Within this process, it begins on January 13th at 9 a.m. and will run all the way until February 7th at 4 p.m. So you will have the time between those dates to get the package, fill it out, gather your signatures, and then submit it back to us. So we do give you some time there to get all of that done and to make the decision to put in that application and participate in the elections process. When I mention signatures, basically, when you're in the nomination process, I keep saying being on the ground, communicating with their students, that's what this is all about. You're out there, you're talking to your fellow students, and you are explaining to them that you're running for elections and you would love for their support, and they'll give you a signature. They'll put their first name, their student number, and their contact number, and that will be considered a signature for your nomination. So they are supporting you to be nominated to go forward in the campaigning process. So as a vice president, you need a total of 50 signatures, half of which, or 25 from the campus of your attendance. If you are running for vice president at Downsview, you must get 25 signatures or otherwise collaborate with 25 students from your campus. And then the other 25 can come from any campus or another 25 from Downsview. You don't necessarily need to go out and get signatures outside of your campus, so you can get all 50 from Downsview. Don't let that stress you out too much, because really what it is you have your package, you go up to a student, hey, my name is Jessica, I'm running for elections, my goals are this, will you give me one of your nomination signatures? And I've never heard somebody get turned down for getting a signature, so 10 times out of 10, they'll give you their signature and they'll put their support forward. Let me see the chat here. Go ahead.
So I was wondering, can someone from a different campus vote for you? Like, let's say I'm from Downsview campus. Can I get votes from Progress campus?
I'm gonna just give a differentiation between votes and nomination signatures. Voting is once you've been nominated, gone through the campaigning process, and now students are putting in their official vote. I'll get into the voting process right after this. Nomination signatures, yes, you can get your friends from Progress, Ashtonby, Morningside, 25 of those. That is fine for those signatures. You can have 25 signatures off campus, but you need a minimum of 25 from your campus of attendance. Does that provide you any clarity, Jay?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And part of the nomination is just to ensure that all the forms in the nomination package, or otherwise known as the elections or appointed position application, must be completed and submitted by 4 p.m. on the last day of nomination. As I mentioned, nominations close on February 7th at 4 p.m. So that means you must have your package submitted to us by February 7th at 4 p.m., complete, all filled out, and with all of your signatures. Once you've gone through your nomination, you filled out your package, you got your signatures, and we checked your eligibility, and we've let you know, okay, you're good to go. You can start campaigning. What campaigning is you're out there and you are basically marketing yourself. You are making posts on your social media. You are circulating flyers. We produce posters for you. All of that good stuff goes into your campaigning process. So that's when you're out there. You have about, I think, 3 weeks or a little bit over 3 weeks to campaign. And basically during this time, you are hoping to sway individuals to vote for you when voting comes out. So at the end of the campaigning procedures, the voting opens, and basically you want to be out there and get your name out there and, have people believe in your platform as much as they can, so that when voting happens, they see your name and they're like, I'm putting my vote for them. They best represent me as a student. And of course, campaigning is going to have some requirements or some procedures. And first and foremost, we want it to be carried out in good taste. This means you can't slander or attempt to defame other candidates. You're encouraged to campaign on the issues. Whatever your friends, your colleagues, or your classmates are, you hear them talking about, those are the issues that you want to put on your campaign. For example, previously, there's food security, housing security, reduction in tuition fees, even though I do want to emphasize that has been a previous campaigning point, but it is hard to campaign on the tuition fees. But anything that you see, either from collaborating with your students or from your own experience, use those issues, current problems that you want to rectify if you are elected as a vice president. And then, of course, slander, libel, or unethical campaigning are forbidden and are grounds for disqualification. Not that I expect anybody to have an issue with this, but we do just like to put the word out. Just be kind, respectful, and professional. Imagine you're campaigning with your friends. Of course, you wouldn't want to do anything that harms your friends. That's not to say you can't be competitive, but you always want to do so in good faith. And of course, be professional and respectful. You don't want to harm anybody, and you don't want to go against anybody's values or policies of the CCSAI. For example, you don't want to campaign based on discriminating against a certain group, of course, but just to emphasize it, like, you don't want to campaign and say, I'm gonna do this because this group, terrible. That's not what we want. We want you to just promote yourself, promote the issues, and go forward that way. But good competition is always welcomed. So online voting, this is kind of where the differentiation comes in about the nomination signatures versus the actual votes. So nomination signatures do not transfer into votes. Those signatures are strictly used to say you have the support of your students to go forward and be nominated to campaign. Whereas votes they're separate than that. We use a completely online voting system. It's a web-based, fully hosted, independent, universal polling technology. I'm not techie, but I'm sure some of you are more techie than me to understand that. But basically what it means is we use a third-party website that is not created by the CCSAI or the college. It's completely separate. And you put your votes in there. Each student receives a personal link. They get one vote, or membership. They get one vote. And when the voting period opens, there's 48 hours of voting. They go onto this link. They see all of the candidates and they pick which candidate they think best represents them. During the voting period, you are prohibited from putting undue pressure, or otherwise known as influencing students, by providing verbal or physical instructions on the process. So you can direct students to say, hey, voting's open, go vote, but you can't stand there with their phone and go to the link for them and be like, that's my name, put me in. That would be considered undue pressure. So during the voting period, we do very highly recommend that you don't do that, because that can be grounds for disqualification. And what you don't want to do is get all the way to the end of the process and then that happens. Next, they're made public with the elections results are made public within 2 business days after the polling's closed, or within 5 business days if there's a review of violation. By violations, we mean things such as that, like the campaigning procedures. If a student or a fellow nominee makes a complaint, which we haven't had many issues with that in the past, so I don't really worry about this, then the results will be released in 5 business days instead, so that we have time to properly investigate, review, and go forward based on that. These are our dates. These are on our elections website as well, where you don't have to screenshot this screen and keep it on your records. This is available online on CCSAI.ca/elections. That will be up for the entirety of the elections period. But as you can see here, first session is today, November 25th. And then the next session that is going to be pertinent for all of you is going to be the nominations opening, which is on January 13th at 9 a.m. On that date as well, we will be holding a second information session, a little bit more in depth than this one. I like to use this session as kind of a broad overview of what you can kind of expect through the elections process. Whereas on January 13th, that's kind of where I'm going to get into the nitty gritty. So all of you that are interested to put a nomination forward, please join us on January 13th because I'll get into it. I'll tear it apart. We'll go deep into the nomination procedures, the campaigning procedures, and we'll have a lot of time to answer questions based on that. So we like to do it on the same date just so that if there's some people that are a little bit unsure, we can answer your questions right at the opening of the nominations so you can get your questions answered without losing on time to go out and get those signatures. Next, submitting your slogan. These are all formalities. Once you've submitted your nomination package, you will already have submitted a slogan and a personal statement. Slogan is basically your catchphrase, like Jessica for vice president because I'm the best, whatever. That's really bad example, but something like that is like your slogan. And then your personal statement is what you're all about. You have about 150 word blurb that we will use on your posters and use for marketing purposes on all of our social medias. And so you have until February 7th to give us a completed one. Even though if you submit your nomination package and you do submit a slogan, you do have time to amend that. You can email us and say, I don't like it, let me change it. Totally fine, as long as it's before February 7th at 4 p.m. The candidate media days. These haven't been quite determined yet, but they will be determined very soon. But basically, this is when we take all your pictures. We do professional headshots, we take a couple videos, and we do a bunch of some nice media stuff so that at the baseline, we are preparing you all some marketing materials, videos, pictures, post, all that good stuff will be done on the candidate media days. We do this just so all candidates at the baseline have the same amount of marketing going out. So as an association, we'll create you 10 posters. We will post them around your campus of enrollment. We will have headshots taken that we will provide to you all to all use on your own campaign materials. Like if you want to create flyers, bookmarks, pins, whatever it is, we are taking pictures and we'll provide that all to you there. And the nominations close on the 7th at 4 p.m. You have to get us our package, the completed package with your name, your signatures by the 7th at 4 p.m. And then if we go down here, an all candidates meeting. Once you've submitted your package, nominations close, we hold another information session effectively. You're not only going to have today, you'll have January, and then you'll also have on February 12th another session. And this one is very in-depth because this is when we're going to have all candidates that have submitted a package come attend this meeting and we answer questions. We go over conduct for campaigning. We answer questions pertaining to media, anything like that we cover in the all candidates meeting. And then campaigning opens. So this is when you're on the ground and you're getting the word out about yourself. That opens on March 3rd, 2025 at 9 a.m. And that will run all the way until the end of the voting period, which is March 21st at 8 o'clock p.m. Previously, about not a year ago, but 2 years ago, students only had about, I think, a week and a half or 2 weeks to campaign, which we determined was just simply not sufficient. So we extended that campaigning period to a little over 3 weeks. During this time, you will also have a reading week. That's why we extended it, because during this time, you'll have that reading week. So we extended it a week to compensate for the time that the campus is going to be a little bit more empty. Online voting opens on the 20th. So as I said, they will have about 48 hours to put in their vote. So all students will be sent a voting link at March 20th, right at 9 a.m. And they will have all the way until March 21st at 8 p.m. to put their vote in. During this time, you are still allowed to campaign. So that's why I was mentioning the undue pressure. Since campaigning overlaps with voting, you can be out there on the campus whilst the voting period's open and really getting into it, going around, giving out your materials, getting the vote out there, making social media posts, whatever you see fit for your campaign, you can do so over the voting period. You don't need to be sitting at home anxious, but you can be out there on the ground and getting that support whilst the voting is open. And then the rest of these are formalities. As I mentioned, if there are no violations or anything like that, 2 business days after the close of polls. Since the polls close, I think the 21st is a Friday, so that's why you'll see March 25th. And then if there are violations, it would be 5 business days. The rest of these will be relevant once you've gone through that whole process. So I won't spend too much time on the holding for emergency board meeting and so forth. And yeah, thank you for letting me ramble. So now I want to give you all the opportunity to ask us any questions. I can go back in the PowerPoint if you need me to. If there's role specific questions, we do have our Downsview Vice President here to answer. And if you don't have questions now, totally okay. Our contact information will be on the next slide. If you have any questions from today all the way until nomination and beyond that, you can send me an email and I will get you the answers that you need, of course, because understandably, this may be a lot of information. And I can also distribute this PowerPoint to you all if you would like to do so you can reference it later as well. Yeah, go ahead.
So first of all, I have a question from Jessica. I'm not sure if I get it correct or not. So I'm from Progress, right? Only Progress students can vote me, right?
That is correct. When the
Okay.
voting period opens, students can vote for Progress. So only students at Progress will be voting for you, and that goes for all of the campuses as well.
And I have another question from Khushbir. I remember the time that Khushbir was a candidate. Can you tell us a story of the days you were campaigning and everything? I'm sure you have so many good stories here.
So I campaigned with my best friend and we were standing against each other, but we were also kind of working together. So for me, it was a fun process. The only dreading part for me was the result piece because those 3 voting days were like dreadful. Like I could not sleep. It was really hard to focus because then you're stressed whether you're going to win or not. Even though I was standing against my best friend, it still felt like a lot of pressure to win. And also I feel like there's one thing about nomination, as Jessica said, I don't think nobody would say no to signing your nomination package. But I've met like so many people who would just say no to my face and they were like, no, I can't sign a package for you. They would come up with like excuses. I don't know if that's so. I had a hiccup in my nomination package because of the signatures and stuff, but still I got like 80 signatures from Downsview. And then during the campaigning period, I had like 2 tables. So one was on the election day with my friend. So we had a table next to each other, but we were campaigning for our own self, like not each other or not together. I feel like that's something you cannot do. Like you cannot pool in with someone else, like other candidates from your campus to do everything together. You gotta do your separate thing. Other than that, I don't remember that I had any problems.
I thought that, taking signature should be easier, but at least you experience, and I'm sure it happens for everyone. It's not that easy.
I think it's also depends on from campus to campus. For Downsview, it's kind of like most of the people are not involved with CCSA a lot because we are far away from Progress, and Progress is where our main operation is. They kind of always feel distant. So it's hard to get the engagement from Downsview. I feel like that was the reason. But I've heard that Progress is the easiest to get the signatures from. I hope it answers
Thank you.
your question.
Your good experiences. It's really valuable for us.
Progress is our biggest campus. So as Kushbir said, usually it is a lot of students are very well aware of elections because as unfortunately a lot of our stuff does take place at Progress campus. Usually you won't have any problems with getting signatures. If one person says no, you can turn around and ask the next person walking by and someone will give you their signature. And it's good for vice president because you do only need 50, which as Kushbir said, he got 80. It's doable. It's not too hard. It's daunting when you're looking at it from the outside, but once you're there, it's not too bad. It's a good process because you will meet a lot of people. And like Kushbir said, they're all so nice and, they'll remember your face. And then when voting comes out, they'll be like, oh, I remember him. Great. Let me go vote for him.
And a good point is like a good thing about Progress, at least what I experienced. I'm in my 3rd semester. So without thinking, I already know 20 to 25 people that I know they'll sign for me. For Progress, should be easy.
Exactly. And a great tip I like to give people is that you have classes in person. Whilst your students are either arrive early to that class or when students are leaving the class, you just stop them for a second, be like, hey, you know me, do you want to give me a signature? Because I'm trying to represent all of you. And you'll quickly build up and then you'll be like, oh, I have like 80, 100, 150 signatures and so forth. It is very doable and I don't want that to be too daunting for you all because you'll do it and it'll be done before you even know and you'll be like, wow, okay.
Thank you for answering the question.
You're very welcome. Thank you for asking some great questions.
I just want to add, it took me like 2 hours to get all the signatures. So it doesn't take much, to be honest. If you put in your break time, you can get the like full 50 signatures.
Exactly. It goes by very fast. We give you a good amount of time, but you'll get it done in one little session of being out there and trying to get the signatures. How about anybody else? Does anybody else have some questions that are at the top of their mind? Again, totally okay if you don't. That is fine. We're all available any point in time. If anything comes to your mind, if you have concerns, you have interests, whatever it is, we'll get you those answers after as soon as possible. And yeah, I'll just leave the floor open for a little bit longer just in case something comes to your mind. Alrighty, team. I want to say thank you all so much for taking the time out of your evening to come and listen to this presentation. Hopefully it wasn't too much information, but also hopefully it got you interested, and I hope to see you all getting involved in our elections. It is a very fun process. You'll all have a good time. Don't let this discourage you. It's a great opportunity. Being a board member gives you access. This isn't just a representative of students, but it's also good for your futures as well. It gives you great access to a bunch of opportunities, rather, within the association, outside the association. We provide all of our board members with quite extensive professional development training opportunities, and within this position, you will meet a ton of people. You'll meet, as I mentioned, a lot of executives within the college, and you'll also meet a lot of people outside of the college. Like I said, we have board members that are currently at Parliament Hill advocating for all of your rights and all of your interests. You can only imagine the amount of, MPs and members of government that you are meeting. It's a great opportunity. It's hard work, but it's good work. And yeah, I hope this was informational to all of you and it helped you out a little bit. Again, I am here. You can send us an email at elections@CCSAI.ca and we'll get back to you with all of your questions. Just keep an eye on our social medias and everything for more developments in this process. But just be aware that another information session is on January 13th at the same time, also on Zoom. And that is also the beginning of nominations. If you're still a little bit unsure, please join us on January 13th as well, and we'll get a little bit deeper into this process and provide you all with a little bit more information and hopefully get you all involved. Yeah, I guess we'll call it here in an effort to not keep you all too late. I'm sure some of you are waiting for dinner, so we can end it here. And again, thank you all for attending. I really appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you all, and I hope to collaborate with you all further in the future.
Thank you for your time.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a great
Bye.
night.